Greetings, seekers of ancient knowledge and present day knowledge. Welcome to the Presence podcast with VijeV.
Hey, it's VijeV.
Yeah, we missed you last week, but I guess Easter caused a bit of.
The bunny got away.
But yeah, but it's all good. We're back. We're talking about issues that affect your present day. And today we actually got quite an interesting topic: anxiety caused by the worry of the future. And how does the worry of the future affect how you live your life today? And I think a lot of people get anxious just thinking about the future and forget to live today.
We are more anxious than ever before. I think, you know, there are two books that explains where we are and how we live. And I was actually really thinking about it. There are two major literature books that you will definitely know about. Number one is 1984, George Orwell. The other one is Animal Farm by Aldous Huxley.
Animal Farm is also George Orwell, both of them. 1984 and Animal Farm, both written by George.
What book did Aldous Huxley write? He wrote the book Brave New World. 1984, okay, is about censorship, right? So it's about being cut off access to things in order to limit your freedom. Essentially, the autocratic governments, the autocratic worlds that we live in, where you are removed access from things in order to keep harm away. It's a form of control by only making you see what you need to see. So you only see what I want you to see. That's the world. The other one, Brave New World. That one talks about where control is also exists, but in the form of over information. By keeping you numb, by keeping you over inundated with too much things, too much choice. We make you complacent because there's just too many of everything. Then when there's too many of everything, this causes confusion, which also causes complacency, which is another form of control. So control with too much information versus control by not giving you any information. Right? Those are the two universes. Anxiety exists with the fear of those two areas. When there's just too much happening in your life, or when there's nothing happening and you don't know what to do. It's almost like I'm in the dark, I have no information, I'm being held back, to there's just too much in the world. And that's, in a way, for me, is the two bodies of work that talks about the human mind when it comes to anxiety and the future. And I don't know how you feel about it, but we are in the Brave New World part of the anxiety right now. Because there's so much information, because there's too many stimulations, too many bombardment of information coming through from everywhere, including divisive information from all over, is actually causing us anxiety because we have access to so much information. Our brain can calculate and simulate so many variations of the future. So in the past, we would have certain amount of information that we have access to. We didn't know everything that is happening around the world. Now we do. So now we're like, ooh, if this happens here, this could happen. This happens here, that could happen. So there's a sea of butterfly effects that impacts our mind. So from two or three possible choices in life, suddenly there's 3,000 choices and 3,000 to 3 million possible variations of timelines. And your brain is trying to simulate all of them. That's anxiety. And that's what that's the world we're living in right now. The brave new world form of anxiety.
So it's very interesting that you think that is the reality, right? That we have access to all the information, which is causing complacency, which I think is probably true in a sense. We do have access to a lot of information. I mean, just here at my fingertips, I can go into Google or any other search engine and basically get the answer to.
But the anxiety, just to add, maybe that's probably what you're going to say. Just to add, because of so much information, it's also the illusion of choice. Now understand there's too many things happening. There's 50 variations of cereal you can buy, but it's basically comes from the same company. So the illusion of choice is at the bottom. So when you look at the future or how we live, in the superficial layer is the brave new world, but in the underlying layer, 1984.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The underlying layer, there's a huge amount of censorship and control of information. So the system at the moment that we're living in, there's an overwhelming amount of information and choice on stuff that's irrelevant, that's not really important. And they're trying to convince us to consume and buy this new gadget and this new thing and this new dress or fashion or all these things that are irrelevant in the bigger scheme of the purpose of life. There's an abundance of choice there. But in the truth, in the real functioning of nature, there's a lot of censorship. And I mean, I guess we saw that quite heavily during the COVID period. There was a lot of treatments that were censored, like ivermectin, and a lot of information was censored during that period. And Twitter was obviously a big help.
I mean, we know vaccines can be life saving, but the way they forced it on and they made it a criminal offense, like if you don't take it or else kind of attitude, that was very strange. Because why is that being made available for free? Like, why did they make that for free? Why did the billionaires and everybody had no problem giving that for free, but while we can't get anything else for free? Everything else is costed and paid for or paywalled. But this one was forced on for free. Why? Why couldn't they make food available for free like that?
Yeah, you have to think. So this is a mix of 1984 and A Brave New World, is I think what we're really living in. And both of them, well, like you said, each of them on their own would cause anxiety, right? Each of them in isolation would cause huge amount of anxiety on a person. Now we're living on a planet where both these are happening concurrently. Imagine the anxiety.
That's the two layers I was talking about, right? The two layers. So in the bottom layer is the superficial layer. No, sorry, I should say the top layer is the superficial layer. That's the brave new world. Okay, that's the too much information going on. And we are inundated with too much. While at the bottom fundamental layer is the other one, which is your 1984, which is where there's restriction of things. It's the comedian once said, up here you've got 12 variations of milk and yet no cure for cancer. You know, it's like that. It's all the irrelevant things that make money, but things that actually make us better is censored. Things that make us better, that actually make us free, are set aside or not prioritized. While the things that can make money, that can actually give us more, that gives away our control, is readily available. That is why, if you look at the price chart, healthcare and education has become too expensive, but televisions are the cheapest it's ever been.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. It's all a distraction. So I wanted to talk about the a really good example that you brought out. It's quite a popular TV series at the moment, The Three Body Problem. And it originally was a book written in Chinese originally, and then obviously translated into many languages. And it's three books, it's a trilogy. And it talks about an alien race that is reasonably close to Earth, takes about 400 years to travel. And this alien race has spotted Earth, and they've sent a message to Earth saying, "Hi, we found you in the solar system. We found your location, and we're building a fleet to come over to Earth to destroy you." They sort of give this message to Earth, and it's going to take them 400 years to travel to to get to Earth. So this is the premise of the story, and this is how it begins. So the generations that are born in this 400-year period are born knowing, like, oh, there's this alien species coming to Earth in, on this date, and it's causing anxiety on a global scale. And starts causing a lot of drama and interactions across the globe because of this global anxiety. And it's quite interesting to decipher that problem and sort of look at it um, on a global scale from a singular issue affecting the whole species. So, what did you take from this, and how that anxiety caused and affected their present day lifestyle? And
In that story, okay, this I think you need to add in here, for those who haven't seen this TV series or haven't read the book, you need to put here disclaimer, spoiler alert in your podcast, like that. Essentially, the aliens later on revealed to the humans that they were in contact with that they are on their way and it's going to take 400 years. And there have been theories. People asked, if these are aliens who are worried about Earth and they want to destroy Earth, why reveal it in the first place? Just travel for 400 years and destroy them through surprise. But what they do reveal that in that 400 years, from the period now, they are very advanced and humans are still getting into space. But the rate of change of advancements of Earth is going to be exponentially faster. That in 400 years, humans will have exceeded the technological capabilities of these aliens, and the aliens will get outgunned. So for them, the greatest weapon is disruption, is for humans to fight amongst themselves. So that's why they revealed to the humans, we are on our way and we are coming to destroy you. And that anxiety, that knowledge of an impending doom fundamentally changed humanity into three areas, which is actually fundamentally the three kind of things that happens to humans. Funny enough, the story is called Three Body Problem, which is about a star system that has three bodies of stars that causes instability. Because there are three bodies of stars, you cannot predict the movement of of their planet. So they end up having seriously irregular lives. So they can't evolve as fast as we can because we are relatively stable with the one star. So that's the three body problem. So it's very irregular, which is quite interesting because that's the three bodies of factions that actually ends up occurring on Earth due to their influence of the knowledge of them coming. And the three areas being number one, humans who say we need to fight them because they're going to destroy us. Number two, the humans that say we need to join them so that maybe we can find peace and get along with them. And third, humans saying, no, we need to escape and get out of here. We need to find another planet and let them take over because we have no chance. That's interesting, which is the three areas of human thought when you have impending doom or anxiety that happens in your life, which is either you want to fight it, give in to it, meaning giving into the depression of your anxiety, or fighting your anxiety, as in you actively do something about it, like actively, whether it's meditation, health, education, friendship, community, love, all the things that can help you foster a good future. Because if you take care of your spiritual self, your emotional self, all of these things, that's great. But the other one is the one where you give in, right? You're giving into it in the sense that I have no chance of fighting. I would rather be friends with that and be friends with anxiety. But is that a good thing? Because you don't know what it is, because it's an impending doom that you're assuming it's an impending doom. In this case, the aliens were an actual impending doom. But in reality, if you make the assumption that it's impending doom, then if you give into it, you're basically giving into depression. The third one is the escape, where we actually just avoid everything. We avoid our problems and we ignore it and we try and find external solution as if, we won't keep our problems. Those are the three ways that we handle anxiety. The three body problem explains it quite well in an alien attack kind of way, which is quite interesting.
It is so interesting that you mentioned that because I'm studying a lot of stuff about the electromagnetic properties of the bodies. And when you look at it from an electromagnetic point of view, it's positive, negative, or neutral. And those are the three forces that electromagnetic stimulant can have on your body. And I guess that's in any situation, there's a positive, negative, and a neutral way of approaching that situation. So, like you said, you can fight, which is maybe you can look at it as a positive. You can run away, escape, which can be viewed as a negative, or you can try find some sort of neutral ground, which can be the neutral one. The three body problem, and the three ways that humanity deals with anxiety. And I guess this is what happens with anxiety. You have this turmoil within yourself, going through these three different scenarios, but not actually deciding on any one of them. And this causes more turmoil because the three energies flowing in three different directions. And that causes more and more anxiety, which explains why these aliens were so unstable in their.
So their instability was shown in an astronomical sense, and we had a similar instability in our emotional sense. And in the book, actually talks about the three factions actually ended up fighting because that was what the aliens wanted. They wanted the humans to fight one another to actually reduce and slow down their progress. So, which is actually explains that if we are going to progress and become great, we need to unite and become one. And by only fighting one another, we only make things worse when we end up not solving the actual problem, which is the alien that is traveling towards Earth.
Yeah, so this is very relevant, I think, and can be relevant to your actual everyday life, right? Instead of letting anxiety overwhelm you, fighting with your colleagues and having distrust issues and having all the issues that anxiety causes because of some future impending doom.
I think I saw a joke. I think I saw a joke. E.T. was a story where the guy goes, E.T. phone home. But three-body problem is E.T. called back. We didn't like the message. In fact, it was actually a pacifist alien that sent the message first and said, don't send us any more messages. Otherwise we'll come. It's quite interesting. There was, in fact, a pacifist, the same version of a human that doesn't want to fight. There's a version of those aliens also who didn't want to fight. There were aliens there who didn't want to be involved, who were actually neutral as well. That's quite interesting because the aliens weren't one force either. They were also pacifists. There were also those who said we don't need to attack Earth, and the ones who actually wanted to attack Earth. Quite interesting. It's almost like they are behaving human-like.
Which makes perfect sense, right? It makes actually perfect sense. It was great that the book actually covered that and gave that perspective. So what? So in the present day, what can people do, right? I think that's what's relevant, and that's what this podcast is really all about. In the present day, having some knowledge of the future and it causing anxiety in your life, what can we suggest for people to do?
Have you learned about building things as an architect or discovering things as an archaeologist? Now, I'm not sure if that concept exists anywhere else. I'm not sure if there is specifically. I think that it was from some body of knowledge. I can't remember the name. I wish I could credit that. But essentially, you can discover life or build your life as an architect or as an archaeologist. As an architect, you have a set plan of what future you want. Meaning, I want to build a house like this. It can be something emotional. I want to become the greatest yogi in the world. I want to be the best mountain climber in the world. That is an architect frame of thinking. So you do everything and build the structures in place to become a good mountain climber. Fitness, oxygen training, breathing exercises, weight training, endurance training, and also what's the other elevation training so that you can actually breathe under low oxygen levels. All of these things are structures of an architecture type of being, so that eventually, once the block and everything put together, will make you into a good mountain climber. Very often, when that is set, which is a lot of people do, a lot of people say, I want to become a lawyer, I want to do this, I want to do that. When they have a set mind, there's no anxiety because the future is set and they just make everything possible to make it happen. Anxiety happens when you don't know what that end goal is. You don't know that you want to be a mountain climber or a lawyer or a guru. It's unknown because the threat, like three-body problem, those aliens are coming. It's unknown. You don't know what they look like. You don't know what they'll do. You don't even know if they even look like us. Completely unknown fear. So if we are to actually understand how we can do it in that case, when there is no set future, and to avoid that anxiety, is to become and think like an archaeologist. You don't know what you don't know. So just dig, see what's out there. Take the plunge, dig. You don't know there are dinosaurs. You don't know there are gems. You don't know anything. But when you dig, the answers are usually revealed when you start to pick up all the pieces and you put the pieces together, and eventually it builds up into a set of bones where you end up discovering, oh, this is actually a Tyrannosaurus Rex. You had no idea what you're looking for. But by digging, you end up discovering a dinosaur that looks like that. Or if you dig again and you dig and you find diamonds without the expectation of finding gold or anything. You just digging and you find it. That is a form of finding your path in the world of anxiety when the unknown future exists, when there's the fear of the unknown, is to dig. Let the universe tell you what it is. And I'm sure I said it in another podcast with you. When you are lost in the forest, remember the forest itself is not lost.
So I guess in practical sense, when you're saying dig, you're not telling people to take shovels and start digging out in the yard or go out into the bush and just start digging in random places. What you're actually saying is to learn more about yourself, discover more about your internal things. What do you actually enjoy? What do you like? How do you respond? How do you react? Learn more about your body, learn more about how your thoughts respond to what you eat. So learning just more about yourself, digging into that area is a way to discover a future.
The greatest success, I think that's what the greatest success is, to understand how you work. That's where success lies. If you understand fully how you work, you can find your best self. You're basically digging within yourself, finding your best self, where you align towards your inner calling. So, finding your inner calling requires you to dig, finding through the unknowns, having to tune a radio from a frequency that you're used to another frequency that you've never heard before, but you got to keep tuning until you find it. So, you got to go through a lot of noise, a lot of unknowns, right? Radio, as you tune from one station to the next. Remember, in between there'll be all that noise. That's what it is. All that noise, eventually you hit some another note, and that's sort of how inner calling works, how searching works. Your inner tuning is what you're doing, so you can find the inner compass and take it from there. And it's more about trusting yourself. Trust yourself to find it, because you end up discovering that what you don't expect, and then you'll be pleasantly surprised and amazed that you discover something about yourself, and that ends up being you, and that's how you embrace yourself.
So I want to give some practical tips about avoiding anxiety. Well, I know there are things that can increase your anxiety. Um, Number one, I think the most obvious thing, and people say this a lot, is avoid the news, right? I've actually adopted this approach for a couple of years now. Since coronavirus, I've stopped watching most of the news. And I must admit that you don't really hear a lot of bad stuff going on if you avoid the news, right? I don't really know about all the crises and all the details about the war. Obviously, I know that there's a war going on, etc. But that's one way to reduce anxiety. Really, just detach yourself from news overload. Just focus on your own life. Focus on your friends and family, and the people that are important to you. That will help definitely to reduce anxiety. Number two is, I think, avoiding foods that are stimulating in the body. Foods that are stimulants increase activities in our body, and they sort of get us in a more anxious mood, like more jittery. And you can sort of guess what foods I'm going to talk about. Processed sugars. You know, if you have a lot of processed sugars or even caffeine, if you have a lot of caffeine, you get the jittery feeling from having drunk too much of it. So there's a whole list of foods that are excessively stimulating to the body, and that causes anxiety. So processed sugars, caffeine, alcohol, trans fats, obviously all recreational drugs.
That's actually what you are referring to is understanding how you work. Understand how you work. Maybe lactose doesn't work for you. Don't drink it because you have so much harm, you have no energy because your body spending half the energy trying to process it. Knowing that you shouldn't have milk will save you so much of energy and time that your body frees itself to do other more creative things because you have less pain and less issues. It's like that. So the foods will tell you how you work. Your spirituality will tell you how you work. You'll know that if you love the mornings, or if you love sunshine, or if you love reading, if walks and hikes stimulate you, you will do that positively. Or maybe gym's good for you. Maybe you're a writer, write more. Maybe like you, Deepak, you podcast more. You do more of that stuff that is in tune with you, and only you will know. Like I might love tomatoes, but you might hate tomatoes. Understand it, find out, and accept it. Yes, you are not into tomatoes. That's fine. You've discovered something that's very important in terms of your inner taste. Then you find out what milk does to you. Cut it out. Then you find out what refined sugar ends up doing. Cut it out. And then you understand how much not to take in certain times because you know it stimulates you in a certain way. But sometimes coffee stimulates in a positive way if you have it at a certain time, for example. I know that certain people can have it in the mornings. It's good. Other people don't have it at all because they don't need to, or they discover that not having coffee is even better because they understood their system. Works the same way. And other one is would be the emotional sense, which is the activities that you do. How did you discover that you love hiking? Like I for me, I love physical activity, but hiking doesn't work for me. You know, but I love drives in the country. I love taking a walk and taking pictures. I love the fact that I can play with light and sound with my camera. So I'm experiencing that while I also learn how to capture it with my artistic eye. It's something I discovered by digging within myself and exploring that because I knew instinctively I loved visual storytelling. So I was exploring that. I also found out that expressing myself made things better. So I learned how to talk. So that's why I started doing podcasting. So I could speak more confidently and do things like this compared to how I was in the beginning. Now I'm a lot better because it's part of the inner search and inner calling that I'm finding myself with.
Yeah, so you're basically saying to as another example to reduce anxiety is to try different things and learn more about yourself and try new things. To put a logbook together, track what you enjoy, track what you didn't enjoy, and build that knowledge about yourself. So I'm going to add the fourth one, which I've spoken about also on a podcast before, is the power of meditation. And I'll tell you why this is super, super helpful in battling anxiety. The, the whole benefit or the whole purpose of meditation is to still your mind. all these thoughts that are going on through your mind constantly. When you're meditating, so for a period of time, you're going to try and still the mind, remove it of all of these thoughts. And this practice of doing that is like building a muscle, right? So if you have no strength, when you go to the gym for the first time, you're only going to pick up like 5 kilograms. But as you do it more consistently and you do it over a longer period, soon you'll have built more muscle and you can pick up bigger weights and you can do more things with that muscle. And now your mind is a muscle as well. And training it to to stillness, to remove the thoughts, to just focus on your breath and to see how your breath affects your emotion. Because that's really what happens as you become a better meditator, is you realize that the speed of your breath affects the speed of your emotions. So the faster you breathe, the more anxious, angry, or agitated, etc. The slower you breathe, the more calm and relaxed and tranquil you feel. So you learn to control your mind in that way. And doing this, bringing this into your daily practice, I guarantee will help reduce anxiety. The fifth one, VG, you mentioned was exercise. Exercise obviously has so many benefits.
Thing about exercise is, I'm not sure what the actual chemicals are. I think serotonin is one of them. Is essential in body regulation. So when you do cardio, which is running, your heart, the health of your heart is better. If you do weight training and strength training, that is improving the muscle density of your body, also improves the quality of how your brain chemistry works. When you actually do strength training, you actually feel different. There's a meditative feeling as your body is in a meditative state as you exercise. This is not cardio now. This is strength training, muscle training. And there's been so many recommendations that when you actually flex your muscles and grow your muscles, a different set of chemicals actually flows through your body versus cardio, which is another set of chemicals. When you meditate, another set of chemicals. When you feel in love or being loved, there's a set of chemicals. So all of these various things are important. Mental strength, physical strength, spiritual strength is basically what you're doing with exercise, is that you're strengthening and replenishing and clearing up things so that those three things are taken care of.
That is really, really, really insightful. I actually didn't realize that there was two sets of chemical reactions happening in the body from doing strength training and
Yeah, that's what they say. Heart health is cardio, endurance, so that your heart beats, your blood flows better. But the flow of blood is one thing. The flow of information in your mind is from the muscle, the improvement of your muscle training. So your brain flow, your heart flow, your blood flow, your you could call it emotional flow. Those three things are the three flows that you look for: meditation, cardio, strength training. We'll look after those three things.
excellent. So we've given our viewers five things to help reduce your anxiety, five practical things that you can actually do in today's world. You just have to put some time to it, maybe some discipline, if it's avoiding the news, for example, some discipline to cut out the stimulating foods in your life, meditating and doing the exercise. So anxiety is definitely real. I mean, I see it in so many of my patients. I see it when I do go on social media. People are anxious and stressed and worried about the future, and it really is affecting how they're living today. And that's really what we're trying to address. You don't need to be anxious. Yes, this world does create an anxious tendency amongst us, but yeah, I mean, that does not have to be a reality. And there are steps you can take to reduce.
Exactly. And those areas If you can take care of that, it's almost like, I think I mentioned it so many times, even in another podcast as well. All of this is not about changing the world. It's about changing you. It's about how you can handle the world. The world will not change, so to speak, in the sense that you can't change the world. The world will be disruptive. It'll be peaceful one day, disruptive the next. But if you understand how to handle either one, then no matter what's happening, you're setting yourself up to handle it. It's like if you're swimming, right? What's the difference if you just jump into the water for the first time? You're going to drown. But if you learn to swim, the water hasn't changed, but you are better at swimming. Now you can survive. And then you learn how to thrive because now you can really swim and move anywhere you want. So you just went from drowning to going from one place to the next in no time by swimming. The water hasn't changed. You have changed. And that's the difference.
And on that note, we'll end today's podcast. It was actually very informative, even for myself. So, guys, catch us next week. We'll have another interesting topic to help you in your present day life. Till then, VGB, thanks again.
Cheers.